explorer, a person who valued the wild places on Earth. When I went to college, I thought I would become a conservation biologist, although I didn't really know what that meant. Much to my parents' dismay, I discovered the wilderness of the Pacific Coast during college. I really wasn't very good at surfing, so I had to do a lot of it. I did learn some very important things from my studies, and one of those is a perspective that the wild places on Earth, be they mountains or oceans, would be subject to the laws of supply and demand. I changed my major to economics, and I began to follow a career in ecotourism. I sold my earthly belongings and I moved to the rainforest of Ecuador. There I lived in a grass hut for 3 years and worked as a naturalist jungle guide. I learned about the rainforest from the indigenous guides who lived there, for whom I was translating. And they were my constant companions, they were my friends, and I was captivated by the rainforest. I returned to the United States to earn a PhD in tropical butterflies. I studied for 5 years collecting butterflies in the canopy of the rainforest. I collected 10,000 fruit-feeding nymphalid butterflies using traps in the canopy. At that time, one of the largest collections of butterflies in science. As a professor, I've taken many tropical field biology courses with students, and I focus on teaching the value of biodiversity to the people who live in my backyard. But every day, I had to recognize that tropical forest was being removed, destroyed at an alarming rate. My friends from Ecuador, they would call me, oh, you know, the birds we used to go see on the south side of the Napo, there's not so many anymore. The flocks are smaller. There's not so many moths at the nightlights anymore. And these problems built a sense of hopelessness among them and myself about what could we do about the rainforest. When I first heard about the XPRIZE Rainforest competition, I thought it was absurd. I didn't think it was a great idea to fly around in the canopy with drones looking for species. It was impossible and it wasn't going to work. But there was a brilliance in the XPRIZE approach. And that brilliance lies in trying to convince people that if they can look beyond the impossible task and focus for a moment on what we could achieve if we simply solve the solution, we could change the world. Right now, an acre of rainforest is valued about the same price as a cow that feeds on the grass that grows where the rainforest once stood. If we could identify a gold standard of biodiversity, we could use that gold standard to encourage investment from the world's financial markets in intact tropical rainforests. This would provide sustainable economies for the people who live there, and it would provide for preserving one of the greatest wildernesses on the planet. I became a believer. I spent the next 3 years meeting the most extraordinary people, brilliant, technically trained people who wanted to change the world, but they didn't have a path for doing it. The XPRIZE gave us focus, they gave us validation, and they gave us an audience. They guaranteed that no matter how crazy our solution was, that 9-person panel of judges would take a close look at it, and that they would find value if it was there, and they were looking for radical ideas. Every single person on this team, we're over 65 members, every single person on this team made a unique and valuable contribution that made Limelight Rainforest a powerful team that did the impossible. Join our team of dreamers. They're revolutionaries. Cynics need not apply. And on this team are the most profound optimists I've ever met, and these are the people who live on the Napo River in Ecuador. And they've always known that their rainforest was subject to the global economy's designs, that they would have to work to preserve it themselves. We helped them construct this company called Selvotech that will do biomonitoring and help them gain control over their economies, allow them to develop sustainable jobs and careers while living in the rainforest and preserving their habitats. We made tremendous progress in this prize. The slingshot in this image reminds me of my PhD. We used slingshots to shoot fishing line and strings into the canopy and hauled traps, where we sampled for 5 years, 10,000 butterflies. That's an average of 1 butterfly per trap per day. At the finals competition in Manaus, Brazil, we classified 50,000 insects in one night in one trap, one limelight rainforest raft. In 5 rafts, we classified over 250,000 insects. We have entered a new frontier in the study of life on Earth. We are closer than we've ever been to identifying that gold standard for biodiversity. And when we do, we can do great things. We are riding the greatest technological wave of our time. If we do it right, we will allow the financial markets of the world to invest in intact tropical rainforest and build sustainable economies for the people who live there. Thank you, XPRIZE, and thank you all for coming.